Hello and welcome to Paranormal Versus, and my best British accent there, as you can tell. Well, haven't been on for a while, and today we've got an amazing guest on, a really, really amazing guest. But before we introduce that amazing guy, I'm going to just have a little bit of a chat with the guys to find out how they've been doing. And Michael, I'll ask you first.
I've been doing well. I've recovered from my road trip in April and first half of May. Hence, we had no episodes for a month because I found out how much y'all really love and need me.
Yeah, we do.
Little shameless plug for myself there.
Of course. Nothing wrong with a shameless.
I wouldn't expect anything else.
Yeah.
No.
So how was that?
I did miss everybody. I did miss the show.
Oh, you missed the show, not me and E.
I said I missed everybody in the show.
Right. Okay. Shall you be? That's cool. So where did you end up going on your trip then?
I went to places like Tombstone, Kanab, Utah, Oklahoma City. Went to Gibbsland, Louisiana to see the Ambush Museum for Bonnie and Clyde. And went to Savannah, Georgia for the first time. Hung out in St. Augustine and came back home.
Savannah is enchanting. I love that place.
Oh, yeah. On my bucket list.
It was an interesting place. I think we were in the downtown part where on the river. So yeah, I didn't see much of the East Coast part where I think more of the haunted homes and everything are. I was more in like the city streets where the stores were.
I'm so jealous. But as you know, I'm going to America very, very soon. So I'm going to see a few places too.
I'm jealous because you're going to places I haven't been.
I know. I'm going to rub it in, don't worry. But yeah. Obviously, you've had fun. So that's the main thing. E, what you been up to lately?
Oh, as always, I'm always running around with my head cut off. My family keeps me nice and busy, but mainly we've been battling all the yard work. The rains have caused everything to explode, and trying to keep everything at bay before everything turns into a rainforest is quite the challenge nonstop. And of course, the humidity is at its peak with all the moisture everywhere, but it's a lot of fun. We enjoy it. I was out there earlier. That's why my allergies are kicking up. I'm probably going to be rubbing my face all day. Other than that, just trying to keep it as easy as possible and
catching snakes.
Living life. Catching snakes. Yeah, cut a couple.
Living the
dream. Had a fun time with that. Living the dream, yeah.
Cool. But anyway, I haven't really been doing that much lately. Apart from nothing.
No, you've been getting better.
Yeah, I haven't been too well, but I'm preparing for my trip now. which is next month, and I am so looking forward to it. Be fun.
So
yeah.
so we might be able to get Kel to come on the show on locations.
That's a possibility. We're working on that. It depends on if I can get my laptop working over there. But yeah, I'm sure we'll work something out.
Easy peasy.
Easy peasy.
Oh yeah.
Lemon squeezy.
I'm sure where you're staying there might be an extra laptop you can borrow if not.
Yeah, I'm sure there will be. But anyway, without further ado, we're going to introduce this amazing guest. And he's basically from Tombstone, Arizona, and his name is Bruce Burnett. I hope I pronounced that right. I don't want to get wrong. And like I say, he's from Tombstone. He's got lots of stories about, obviously, the paranormal there. So I'll introduce Bruce and tell you what he does and where he's from.
Hi, everybody. Good to see you all.
Hello.
You too,
I
Bruce.
wanted to tell you guys, I don't think she told you, but Kel, when she comes to America, she's only coming for Tombstone.
I wish I was going to Tombstone.
She needs to
And I
drive
have-
it.
I have to apologize to anyone watching. Occasionally, you'll see me move around, and occasionally, you won't. And that's because I live in the middle of the Arizona desert, 20 miles from the Mexico border, home of the OK Corral and Boot Hill Graveyard and all that. And we don't have the most spectacular internet here, so you have to pardon me for that.
That's okay. We'll let you off.
We'll blame Wyatt Earp.
Yeah.
You want to hear
Dang Cowboys.
something interesting about Wyatt Earp? Because Wyatt Earp and all that's kind of where we get our remaining fame from. That guy was in a number of gunfights, never once got hit. At the OK Corral, everybody got hit and everyone got killed. But Wyatt has never took a bullet in anything he ever did. Died of old age in Southern California.
Wow.
Yeah,
That is
interesting.
incredible.
Yeah,
With I mean, when you
yeah.
think about
Everybody
it,
at the gunfight took a bullet, except him.
Jeez.
and guns weren't that accurate back then, so that's even more impressive.
Well, I mean, if you saw where the gunfight happened, which actually the OK Corral is also a haunted location. If you saw where the gunfight happened, these guys fired 30 shots in 30 seconds, and they were like 7 feet apart. I don't know how anybody missed anybody. I mean, literally, they were like standing right in front of you.
Wow.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Yeah, they say the majority of gunfights happen within 10 feet.
Yeah, most of the movies, you know, old gunfight, you see the guy come out in the Wild West, you know, go down across from each other, and they drop. That almost never happened. I mean, I think Wild Bill Hickok had one like that, but we never had anything like that to him. We had to get shot on the street, for sure, but not, wasn't like go out and draw.
Yeah.
Well, does anyone have any questions?
Yes, actually, I do. What's the most commonly cited ghost that you hear of in Tombstone?
The most haunted location?
Which is the most common cited? Like, is there a specific place or person that's seen over and over again?
Well, there's several. So the big things in Tombstone are Boot Hill Graveyard. That's a big one. The OK Corral, of course. There's also the Birdcage Theater. And the Birdcage Theater, they have 2 ghost nights, 7 days a week, 364 days a year there. There's also the mines, of course. They have a big mine tour here. And there's also the Tombstone Courthouse State Historic Park, which is an Arizona State Park. And all of those places that I just mentioned, they're all haunted. They all have activity in them. Even the state park, they don't like to admit that.
Wow.
Now, Bruce, what ghosts are seen the most? Like, is there like a cowboy spirit that everybody sees, or
so the number one cited ghost, because normally it's highly unusual to see like a full body apparition. There's a spot on Allen Street where there is a saloon called Wide Earp Oriental Saloon and Theater. That is across the street from a saloon called Crystal House. I don't want to say it's common, but like hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have seen a guy at night in like 1880s gear, which is not unusual for Tombstone. A lot of people wear 1880s stuff, but it was like 2 a.m. and they see this guy kind of walk at a little bit of an angle over towards the Crystal Palace, and then he disappears. And a lot of people say that that's Virgil Earp. I don't know about that. Virgil Earp did not die in Tombstone, but he had a very life-changing assassination attempt on him in Tombstone. He got shot by 3 shotgun blasts and lost the use of his arm for the rest of his life. And maybe people call the spirit Virgil Earp because the whole Earp brothers thing. So I don't know, but I mean, hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of people have seen that. I know cops, marshals from town that have seen it, and when the marshal sees it, trained to be observant, I say, hey, was it a ghost? I'm not going to say it was a ghost. I'm just going to say I couldn't explain it. And I'm like, okay.
Wow.
Interesting.
I was going to say, hey, you got any questions there?
Well, I've always loved the Tombstone story. One of my favorite movies is Tombstone.
Right? Fight with Val Kilmer, not get an Oscar.
Yeah. I love the history and then the Doc Holliday story and stuff like that. Oddly enough, what drew me to it when I was younger was the consumption, the tuberculosis aspect of Doc Holliday. My grandmother was actually a tuberculosis nurse. She worked directly inside the tuberculosis hospital, to the point she worked there so long she never contracted tuberculosis, but whenever she would take a tuberculosis test for future employments and stuff, she would always show a positive result, even though she didn't have it. Her body just accepted it or became dormant or whatever. So she always had to get special permissions written out and stuff. So I was like, oh, wow, just making that correlation when I was young, I was like, well, this guy had tuberculosis. This is what was going on. So I started doing a little bit more study. I was kind of a nerd back then, but I loved like the Western thing. I used to run horses and stuff like that. So I was really just drawn to that type of stuff. Then when I got older, I was really big in the law enforcement stuff. And then Wyatt Earp, of course, was a peace officer in Kansas before he moved over to Tombstone to, try to start his retirement, make all the money with his brothers, Morg and Virgil and stuff like that. So just the story as a whole, how he came out of retirement to stop what he thought was unjust. It was just like a hero story. I loved it growing up. So I always focused on the history side of things.
Well, it's interesting because back in the day when the shootout at the OK Corral happened, and there was 2 newspapers in town, which was not unlike the way TV news is now, right? The Tombstone Epitaph was Fox News, and the Tombstone Daily Nugget was like CNN. And so you would read history stories about Tombstone, and it kind of depended on which newspaper you read, which story you were going to get. And I'll tell you what, to this day, there are arguments on the streets of Tombstone on whose fault the OK Corral was. Was it the Earps to make the town safe, or was it the Cowboys doing nothing? I mean, it's a very interesting thing to hear people talk about it in because there's still not agreement on what happened, really.
So
Very interesting. It's on my bucket list.
Yeah. I have an interesting question for you, Bruce. Because
Okay.
the Earps, when they arrived, were not looking to bring law and order to the town.
No.
Were the people of Tombstone happier they were there and with what they were doing, or did they prefer the pre-Earp days?
Well, that kind of goes along with what I was saying about the newspaper. I mean, people don't really understand that back in the 1880s, the cowboys represented a large amount of people in the area. I mean, these guys were, they were cattle rustlers, but they were also cattlemen themselves. They had their own cattle and stuff. Obviously, it's cheaper if you zip across the border and grab some cattle and come back with them. That's less expensive. And it was true for Mexicans as well. It was cheaper for them to come up and grab cattle up here. But they were very well known in their area. And so most of the business people were pretty happy to have law enforcement that, grow. But at the same time, business owners did a lot of business with cowboys. All the restaurants are buying beef from them, things like that. So it kind of a back and forth thing. The 1880s is a strange time in the American West. I mean, it was started by the seedier panic.
Well, and if I'm not mistaken, the Earps were into cattle too, weren't they? Or was that a myth?
Well, I've never heard of that, at least not in this area. That doesn't mean that they weren't, because they had, they were kind of putting their hands in anywhere they thought they could get some money. That was the whole reason to go to Tombstone back then, is Tombstone was a thriving community. It had a larger population at that time than San Francisco did. So it's crazy. Yeah.
Wow.
Well, at one time, I think there was 14,000 people here, but you have to remember the census back then didn't count anyone that wasn't a man. So if you were a woman, you weren't counted in the census. If you didn't own land, you weren't counted in the census. So the 14,000 were all men that owned land. Didn't count kids, didn't count immigrants, didn't count women. I mean, you had a fairly, one time, a fair amount of Chinese population, and they didn't count this either. And we've always had a ton of Mexican folks around here, and they didn't count in the census either. So even though it said 14,000, there might have been 20,000. Who knows?
Yeah.
Wow, that's amazing. What attracted you to Tombstone originally to go and live there? Why did you go there?
Well, actually, I came here as a tourist one time because I had a friend that was one of those guys. He said, "Let's go somewhere," and then he wants to go right away. And it was the middle of July, and he said, "Let's go to Tombstone." I'm like, "Bro, that is the middle of the Arizona desert. Why do you want to go there in July?" And he kept telling me, "It's Tombstone. It'll be fine." And I had no idea what he's talking about. Tombstone's actually at 5,000 feet. Even though it doesn't look like it, it's almost as high as Denver is, Mile High City. But when my wife and I came here, we left Southern California because I was living in Southern California, and we had the temperature was quite high there. We were in one of the inland valleys. It was 116 degrees when I left. I got to Tombstone. It was 85 degrees and monsoony. And if you don't know what monsoon means, we get monsoon rains that are going to start in 2 or 3 weeks, maybe 2 weeks. It starts around the 14th to 16th of June, almost every year. And it's great during the day. You walk around, it's fabulous. You go to all the attractions, everything is great. About 4 o'clock in the afternoon, thunderclouds roll in, and we get. I just heard you talking about rain earlier. It's like we get rain where we get like 2.5 inches in an hour, and all of the rooftops along Allen Street look like waterfalls. Just crazy. And so I was sitting with my wife. I said, "That's 31 degrees cooler than where we live." And she goes, "I know." And then one day, we decided to. We were tired of living in California, and I said, "Where do you want to move?" My wife goes, "I want to move to Tombstone." And I'm okay with that. I mean, I can live at the beach, I can live in the mountains, I can live in the desert. It doesn't really matter to me. And I go, "Okay, we'll move there." And I go, "Remember, you're leaving a county that has 11 million people, and you're moving to a county with 130,000 people. Especially this county here is 1,000 square miles larger than LA County, but it's only got 130,000 people in it." But that and the prices. I mean, I sold a house in Southern California, which was nothing to write home about. Regular, normal house. It was built in the 20s, but it was like kind of a cottage house. So it kind of had. It was kind of cool, but it was only 1,000 square feet, and that thing sold for $550,000. And I'm out here, you guys, I showed you guys a little while ago the view I have. I had a 100-mile view of my house. I'm up on the hill, and my house is 117,000. And built in the 90s, central air and heat, brand new roof, brand new central air, 40-foot covered wooden deck, which I'm sitting on right now. Well, there it is. So. Now my thing's probably frozen, so you guys can't actually see it.
But you sound great.
Oh, it was frozen, wasn't it?
There we go. Now we can see it.
Okay. Yeah.
Wow.
So, yeah, it's pretty cool. And so
Yeah,
that's what caused us to move.
I'm so jealous.
Oh, now it's frozen on part of my view. That's fantastic.
Well, Bruce,
But I sound good, right?
You do.
Oh, yeah.
And I remember you telling me this funny story about your wife, and I wanted to know, and I was going to preface it by saying, is your wife a believer into the paranormal like you are?
No. My wife is 100% skeptic. And we did a couple of Paracons 2 years in a row here that were put on by the city. And my wife had a shirt made for her that said "Token Skeptic." And it was incredibly popular at the Paracon. Everyone thought it was the greatest shirt ever. And, yeah. But she has more adventures in town than I do. Just a normal thing. We were at right after COVID, and I guess it depends on where you are for when after COVID was, because we were only closed for COVID for 2 weeks here and never even had a mask mandate or anything. And we went to Water Store and we were doing karaoke. And there's not very many people, and there's like just a few people, and it's a pretty big place. And my wife is standing, and she's singing, and all of a sudden, she goes, "Oh my God, somebody just put the hand on my back." And I said, "Oh, have a little blissful experience." She's like, it was a muscle spasm. And I go, "I don't think a muscle spasm feels like someone putting their hand on your back." And she's like, "Well, it wasn't a ghost. It wasn't a ghost." And she's had a number of things, actually. I don't believe my house is haunted, but I had this big ceramic plate that was from a town called Douglas down by the border, and it was like a commemorative plate. And this plate probably weighed, God, I don't know, 1.5 pounds maybe. And it was up on my shelves, and it had knickknacks and hobnobs in front of it. And it came off the shelf and went 8 or 9 feet. It's not like it fell straight down to the floor. And I wasn't at home when it happened. My wife hears this crash. She was in this place like 9 feet from where it had been, out in the middle of the floor, broken all to hell. And I'm like, oh, Miss Skeptic, what made that happen? And she's like, maybe it was a little earthquake. We're from California. We've been in a lot of earthquakes. I never, and I've been not that far from epicenter earthquakes, and barely had anything fall over my house, And then it was, maybe it was the wind. And I'm like, so how did it lift up over all these tchotchkes and other stuff that's on the show? It didn't even knock the plate holder over. So I don't know. But she's not a believer at all. We were at a place called Sisters Paranormal, which is now called Undertaker Espresso Bar, which is also haunted and actually has, for the first time, it's got drinks that cost less than Starbucks, and it's in a tourist town, but they make the same kind of stuff. It used to be called Sisters Paranormal, and my wife went up to buy something, and the gal goes, "Oh, you're very receptive." And my wife looks at her, she goes, "I don't believe any of that ghost crap." She goes, and she stops and paranoid helps her. She goes, "Just because you don't believe doesn't make you not receptive." And my wife was like, "Oh, okay." Yeah, it was interesting. So she has a lot of, the gal asked her, she goes, "Well, stuff doesn't happen to you." And my wife goes, "No." And I'm like, "Yes, it does. You just don't think it's paranormal." And then she goes, "Does something happen to people around you?" And we're like, "Yes, it does." So I don't know. It's interesting. The fire channel is pretty well known for ghosts at kind of all times. It doesn't really matter. There's a lot of people who have experiences. Do you guys want to know what the most haunted places in Tucson are?
Yes.
Definitely.
Okay, so the highest rating, whenever you see things like, top 10 most haunted places, it's for sure the Birdcage Theater. Birdcage Theater, I can actually see from my house. It's at the end of Allen Street. Allen Street is the main street down the middle of the town. A lot of buildings have been there since 1881, 1882, because there was a couple of fires, but they rebuilt them right away. The Birdcage, I think it's voted that way because thousands of people go in there and investigate. Like I said, they run 2 ghost hunts a night, 7 nights a week, 364 days a year. So there's a lot of people to vote for the Birdcage. Boot Hill Graveyard is got a lot of activity, but the most haunted place in town is called Chaplain Hall. And Chaplain Hall is owned by the city, and you just can't get in there in time. They do events and stuff in there, and there is talk that they're going to start allowing teams to go in there. We've started allowing teams to go in the graveyard at night, which they never done in the last 104 years, but they started doing that at the end of last year, and they do it like a couple times a month, every month. And but Chaplain Hall, they're going to start doing that as well. And I used to do plays there with the Tombstone Repertory Committee, and every single time that I've been in Chaplain Hall, stuff has happened. Like every single time. We had guys that were speaking there at the Paracon, and a ton of people in the audience are like, "Did you just see that?" Everyone's agreeing. They're like, the shadow figure just walk up those stairs there. And like, no one got a picture of it, but like everyone saw it. A couple of the teams that were up on the stage saw it, and and they like in clear view of everyone. I can't believe, we had a guy that was supposed to be filming that some rigmarole happened with the Paracon who was not doing what he was supposed to do. We probably would have had that shadow figure clearly on film, because literally dozens of people mentioned seeing it. I mean, there was like gasps around around the room like, oh my God, did you see that? But it's to play. We done we had 10 teams that were helping us with the Paracon. And we were running a bunch of investigations for us. And we weren't paying them. So we said, let's do something cool for them. We're going to let them all investigate Shuffling Hall. We're going to let them all investigate Boot Hill Graveyard. And I don't see that great at night anymore. And so I'm sitting in one of the seats in Shuffling Hall. I'm not wandering around, but I'm watching people investigating and doing SOS cameras and all that, and you know, fear box, and I'm watching all these guys. And then this team that I haven't met, called That Paranormal, they come up out of the basement, and I'm like, hey, come here. And I go, how is the basement? They're like, oh my God, it was fantastic. We were talking to this young girl. And I'm like, oh, that's probably Emma. We don't think her name is really Emma, but that's what everyone calls her Emma. And the girl goes, I've never seen anything like it. She was doing intelligent answering on Spirit Box in full sentences. She goes, I'm usually lucky if I catch a word or two words in a row. She goes, but she's answering in full sentences. And I go, oh, that's interesting. Wow. And she goes, but we were unable to talk to the other spirit. And I go, who's the other spirit? She goes, Emma kept saying this, Bruce. And I'm like, oh. And I looked at her, I go, my name's Bruce. And without even thinking, she goes, oh, Emma said to say hi to you. And she just walked away from me. I'm like, oh my God. Yeah, it's kind of interesting. But that's the most haunted place in town.
Wow, that is amazing. So why do you think that Tombstone's one of the most hauntedest places? Is it because of the violence that's there, do you think? Or do you think that they just want to come back to visit?
Well, at this time in Wild West history, there were, and you know, I mean, at one time, Tombstone had 150 saloons. And there was a lot of people that got killed here. There was a lot of miners that were killed in mine accidents here. And there was a lot of people who died of disease here as well. And realistically, for how small the main area of town is, there's, and you know, really, people died in mines underneath, all over underneath the town, because there's some activity in areas where we can't really pinpoint someone that specifically died there. But there were people that died underground in a variety of locations around town. So that's, I think it's just the fact that it was Wild West. It was, you know, people shooting each other, stabbing each other. People died of mine accidents, and there's one guy that died because he fell off his wagon and his wagon wheel rolled over his skull and crushed it. I mean, there's this all kinds of weird. I mean, you don't normally find that in most towns. You know, like there's a high amount of super fast and shockingly quick deaths here. Which some people say that's the reason why a spirit would stay around. They don't really know they're gone or that kind of thing, you know.
Yeah. Not to mention you're surrounded by mines too, and a lot of that quartz stuff supposedly holds memory and stuff like that.
I've got mines directly beneath where I'm sitting right now. Wow. I can't remember how many thousand miles mines there are here, but there have been occasions in the past where there was an ice truck, an ice wagon in like 1901 that the guy starts with this wagon and he climbs off the wagon and he looks over at it because he's thinking there's something wrong with the wheel or something. And suddenly the wagon dropped right through the street, took the horse with it, fell 75 feet into the thing that they used to refer to, well, they still refer to as the $1 Million Stone, which is a large area that they mined out. And the guy's horse actually survived and they let it out through one of the mine tunnels. But wow. You know, stuff like that does happen here in town. There was an opening right off of the street called Tubnut, under a portion of the side of this building where it's still like anyone going on building. But it always makes you wonder around town, I wonder if anything's going to fall there. Normally they don't, because it's hard rock mining here, like you were talking about quartz and things like that. It's hard rock mining. We didn't have a lot of cadence, but we had a lot of guys that passed from like setting the last time too short, not getting far away from where they were blasting with dynamite. That kind of thing happened. I don't know about on the regular, but fairly often.
Yep. Michael, you got any questions?
Bruce, my question for you, and historically speaking and architecturally speaking, how much of Tombstone today would match the 1800s, like the time while the Earps were there, Tombstone, and all this activity was happening?
Well, that's a question that we get asked a lot, actually. So Allen Street, which is the main street downtown, it's only like 3 blocks long. It goes from 3rd Street to 6th Street, and that's where most of the familiar stuff is located. There are a number of buildings along there that are original buildings. The problem with Tombstone and original buildings is there was a big fire in 1881, and it burned down a lot of the town. It burned down things like what was called the Oriental Saloon, which is now Wyatt Earp's Oriental. But they rebuilt it in like 4 months. So it's like, is it original from 1881? No, but it's original from 1882. And then there was another fire in town where the fire was burning by where Wyatt Earp's is now. And the guy that owned it said, hey, if you can stop this fire, you can help for free. And they stopped the fire right at his building. But there's, where the visitor center now used to be the old hospital. Before that was an old like a general merchandise store. The Birdcage Theater was never got hit by a fire. That's an original building on there. The Tombstone original City Hall has been there ever since the beginning. The Shefflin Hall, the one that I said is really haunted, that place has remained the same since the beginning. The Tombstone Courthouse State Historic Park is the same. And then there's a lot of places along town that wouldn't look like they're the same, but the buildings are actually original buildings. They might not look the same as they used to. Where Big Nose Kate's is now, where I had lunch with you, that used to be the Cosmopolitan Hotel. And the way the front of the restaurant and saloon looks now is still the way the original building was, but the building got gutted. So when they redid it, they put a bunch of stuff, they put all the new stuff in there. But the outer side of the building is somewhat unchanged. It's really tough when they're a town that have a bunch of fires to, say everything is exactly the same. Exactly the same as when it's the important thing. But there's a lot of stuff here that's original. There really is. There's a place called Red Buffalo Trading Company. The store. It's the store that Morgan Earp got shot at. Does it look exactly like it did back then when it was Campbell and Hatch's billiard parlor? Probably not, but it's the same building. It's still there, and there's a lot of things like that.
Yeah. E, any questions?
Yeah. How frequent do you run like paranormal tours and investigations? Like, is there like an investigation like every night? Do you hold like special like events?
There's both. So, like I said, they do them twice a night, every night, 7 days a week. There's this place called the Pete Spence House, which is now, and that's an original building too, but that's called Friendly Flowers More. So weirdest place to go on a ghost hunt because it's like a florist and like a floral shop with stuff in it. but that's was the house of a guy named Pete Spence, and purportedly, I have to say that a lot about Tombstone because Tombstone history is a little funky at times, but supposedly there were guys that were at that house that were planning on getting the Earps, not necessarily getting them at the OK Corral, but getting them. And supposedly that happened at that house. They do ghost hunts there. I don't know how often, but I know they do them like at least like a couple times a month. There's a paranormal team from the local town that comes and does that. There is, like I said, we do Boot Hill every so often. You have to watch. Here's my plug. If you want to find out what stuff like that happens, you go on Facebook and follow discovertombstone.com. Or you can go to discovertombstone.com, or you can follow Discover Tombstone on Facebook. We always put stuff like that. Then there's a place that's on 5th Street, right across from the Longhorn restaurant that has activity they just started talking about. And actually, it seemed pretty reasonable because they're going to let teams go in there and go in for like, you take 8 people in there for like 4 hours, it's like $250 or something. That's like $22 a person, you know, so it's cheap. Or you can go in there for 8 hours for like $300 or something. So it still works out cheap, you know, if you take 8 people with you. So
That's awesome. That's definitely on the bucket list for sure.
well,
Yeah.
oh, and also I can't miss this. There's also a thing called the Tombstone Gunfighter and Ghost Tour, and that's probably the coolest like city tour thing to go on. It's a walking tour, and they take ghost hunting gear with them, and they hit like all the spots around town. And the guy that runs it does a really good history of Tombstone. And so at the same time, when you guys are going and, you know, checking out areas known for paranormal activity, he's also giving you the full rundown on everything. So, yeah, that's cool.
Wow. Very interesting.
So I have an interesting question for you, Bruce, and we kind of hinted at it while I was there with you. And that is one of the houses that you were talking about where they were plotting with the Earps was across the street from Wyatt Earp. Is that
Well,
more
there.
myth or is that true?
Well, the problem with that, and I mean, depending on who you talk to, it's probably not. There was a couple of places that Earp had his name on the property, and it's really hard now to determine which places he lived at. There is a place on Fremont Street that's called Wyatt Earp House, and it was an art gallery for one. I myself am not convinced that it's Wyatt Earp House, but you know that's what they say. It's got a big bronze statue of Wyatt Earp there in front of it and all that. But there's other people that say that the actual Wyatt Earp was like a couple doors down from that, which would actually be, like you said, like right across the street from the Pete Spence house. And across the other end of the Pete Spence house was Wyatt Earp's house. And that was Wyatt Earp's house. We know where that was at. That, unfortunately, that burned down in the 80s, which is a drag. You know, Wyatt Earp's house burnt down. Or, I mean, Virgil Earp's house burned down in the 80s. But it was right around where you were talking about the Pete Spence house.
And just for clarification, because we're talking about a lot of the Earps, was there 3 or 4 of the Earps that lived in Tombstone?
There was 3 for sure that lived in Tombstone. James might have lived here for a while, but James was normally further out. That's why if you see where James is buried, he's buried out in Wilcox, which is about an hour drive from here, which back then would have been Now James went on the Vendetta ride, which if people don't know, the Vendetta ride was where Wyatt went out to just murder a bunch of cowboys. I mean, he just went on a killing spree, and James did go with there, but Wyatt was local, Virgil was local, and Morgan was local. And James probably lived here at some point, at least for a while, but we don't really consider him when we talk about the Earp brothers in town, because he was more mellow than the other guys.
Oh, that's some amazing stuff.
I wasn't kidding.
I can't think of anything to ask right now. I've got like a million questions usually, and it's just
Same. I can't put my finger on one.
Don't know what's going on.
So I would love to just go out there, not only to do like investigations and stuff, but just to metal detect. Like, just go unearth some of the old time stuff that people haven't seen for like 100 years. Like, that would just be awesome.
Yeah.
You know, the only problem with metal detecting around here is, I mean, if you have a really good metal detector that differentiates between gold and silver and stuff like that, because on my property, it would be going off all the time. There is so much rusted iron under the dirt from the old mining buildings and stuff that it's. I had someone bring a metal detector up here one time, and it just went off the entire time. He first pulled it out, and he's like, "Oh my god, I already got something." And I'm like, "Yeah, you're gonna get something everywhere." And he's like, "Oh," and he finds this long rusted iron thing, and he's like, "Oh," and I'm like, "Yeah, there's thousands of those things laying around here."
Wow. Even finding rusted metal things from the olden days would be pretty cool.
Well, yeah, I mean, there's like old roads, the old roads that went to a town like Benson, which the new highway is going on where the old road is. You can find all kinds of horseshoes and stuff like that along that trail, and different kinds of old westy types of things for sure. You don't necessarily need a metal detector to find out. You'll see them as you're walking along.
I would love just to explore the area. Just have like the tours, get guided around and stuff, and then just turn me loose.
Well, yeah, and there's some really cool haunted places around Tombstone too. There's the San Pedro River is, and I put river in quotes because if you look at a map of Arizona, you'll see a bunch of blue lines that are supposed to be rivers. None of them have blue in them. I mean, there's not usually water, but we have a thing called the San Pedro River. It's got maybe 3 inches of water in it, but there's an old train trestle over there that someone that Michael knows for sure, Jeff Woolwine, he was over there. He goes over there all the time just investigating. And there's a place between that and Tombstone that's called the oh my god, I can't remember I can't remember the name of it. It's the most, they called it the most deadly cabin in Arizona, and it was a mining cabin, and they know for a fact of like 18 people that died around this cabin. And for the life of me right this minute, I can't remember the name of it, but it's that's between there in Tombstone, and we have a lot of ghost towns around here too. We have Charleston ghost town, ghost town, Cortland, Pierce. We got a bunch of them that are findable and not that far from Tombstone.
Wow,
a lot of paranormal going on around here.
Yeah, it sounds it.
Well, we've got a lot of groups of people come here too. Amy Brennan was just here around Valentine's Day, and she had a big event here that sold out. Nick Gropp from the first event, when I still watched it, you know, he was out here. He had an event, and I think we're having another event before the end of the year. So we get, and we've had things like Ghost Lab and Ghost Adventures, all kinds of groups that came into places like the Third Cage and stuff like that.
Mm.
We've had a lot of TV stuff here.
Yeah, I can imagine.
Interestingly enough, the movie Tombstone, they didn't film any of it.
I didn't catch that one, Bruce. You're gonna have to repeat it.
Yeah, I didn't catch it neither.
Oh, I said the movie Tombstone. They didn't film any of it in Tombstone.
Oh wow!
They filmed a bunch of it, not that far from here, called Mezcal, where they've made a lot of Western movies, and then some of it in what they call Old Tucson, but they didn't film any of it in Tombstone. It's kind of weird.
Wow! Wow! I love that movie.
I've actually not seen it yet.
Oh well.
Oh, you're
gonna have to watch it here soon.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to. I think it'll go on tonight, I think.
It's got a ton of famous people in it too.
Yeah, it really has so many different big time actors, but that's one movie I can honestly say that I have seen over 50 times from beginning to end.
Yeah.
Yep.
Well, and Bruce, I remember we were talking about the movie and the scene where Wyatt Earp rides in for the first time and they show in the cemetery that there's the one myth that they made in air to the movie. Do you want to share that with the graves?
Are you talking about the railroad?
The graveyard where they have somebody buried in the graveyard that shouldn't be buried in the graveyard in the movie.
Well, are you talking about Lesser More?
Yes.
4 shots from a 44, no less, no more. That is, people will swear to you that he's the guy. And even got some historical stuff. But he's the guy in like 11 different cemeteries. He's the guy who's also buried at Calico Ghost Town in California, at Knott's Berry Farm in California, and at the haunted mansion at Disney World. I mean, this guy gets around. He's been everywhere. But he's, there was a guy named Frederick Beckhold who was kind of instrumental in getting Boot Hill renovated at one time. And he had, I think he had a hand in putting some names in there. But honestly, that grave marker is probably the most, even more than the most photographed grave marker that Boot Hill has. And sometimes you talk to people and they're like, I don't even know if it's real, but it's great. I got a picture taken with this. I'm like, okay. And I'll tell you, Boot Hill, there's activity at Boot Hill too. There's these four brothers called Brady brothers that when there wasn't a lot of people living down here, the San Pedro River that I said was used to be navigable. And one of them died trying to save the other one from drowning. And they're up there at Boot Hill, and like thousands of people have heard kids giggling when there's no kids in the graveyard anywhere, and they're like, "Oh, did you hear that? The kids were giggling right there." And we think it's the Brady brothers because they were like, I think they were 10 or 11 and 12 when they died. It's like I think they're screwing with tourists. I think when they giggle and tourists react to it, they just think that's great.
Wow. So many different interesting aspects of Tombstone.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Definitely the historical side for me as well as the paranormal.
Oh, yeah.
100%.
Well,
you're going to have to watch that.
When we did the first Paracon here, we had like 14 locations to go and investigate. You know, normally when you see a Paracon, like I see these big Paracons in like St. Louis or something like that, and they go and it's kind of like at a casino kind of thing, and everything's kind of, and then they go like one ghost hunt, and I'm like, we're more like a paranormal festival, right? It's like we had 14 different locations to go to it, and people are like, oh my God, like everything here is haunted. I'm like, yeah, and that doesn't even count people's houses. There's a lot of houses around here that are haunted too. It's crazy.
Yeah.
It'd be hard to pick standing in that old dusty road.
Yeah. Well, and there's weird things that a lot of people don't realize. Like in 1881, we had Allen Street between 1881 and 82 actually got paved. So when you see the old thing, now we don't have to pave now. It looks like dirt now because that's what people like. But we had ice cream parlors in Tombstone. We had a phone service to Tombstone, although it didn't really go. We had phone lines that came here, and then it mostly went between the mines. Like if there was a mining disaster or something like that, they called each other and guys to run and help or whatever. But it was in 1881. We already had telephones, so it's kind of crazy.
Wow.
Wow.
But also, when we had telephones, we also had Apaches. So, it's a weird time frame. Wyatt Earp was supposedly a lover of coffee and ice cream. Wasn't really known as a drinker at that time of his life.
Wow.
I'm not saying he never had a drink, but every time I hear things about him, he seems to be having coffee or ice cream. Which I guess if you live in the Wild West, to get the chance to have ice cream, we had a place in town called the Ice Cream Saloon. And that they didn't do any saloon stuff, they just did ice cream.
Wow. That's so cool.
But if anybody out there is interested in going to a really haunted location, this is a great place to go. A bunch of the motels and hotels around here are haunted too. The Larian Motel's haunted. The Tombstone History Inn is haunted. The Tombstone Bordello Bed and Breakfast is haunted. China Mary's is haunted. It's like it's hard to go anywhere in town that there's not some kind of paranormal activity within a few feet of where you are. It's kind of cool.
Yeah.
Be an awesome trip.
I think that us three should go to Tombstone at some point together and investigate.
I agree.
I agree.
Your homework tonight, Kel, is to watch the movie.
I think since you're in America, you should just scoot on over here.
Sorry, I couldn't hear a word of that. I was cutting out.
I said, I think that since you're going to be in America anyway, you should just scoot on over while you're here.
Yeah, should definitely.
Yeah, you can pick me up on the way.
Oh, I wish. Definitely for next time. Definitely think that's the thing that we should definitely do.
Oh, yeah.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I know there's a lot of people that's on my side of the pond that's really interested in, like, obviously Tombstone and, like, obviously with the history of it and everything else like that. So it's definitely been an interesting show tonight. Yeah, you can come as well.
Everybody come.
Yeah, we'll get everybody to come. Yeah, that would be good.
Yeah. We'll make it a show again.
At one time, Boot Hill Graveyard was the second biggest tourist attraction in the state of Arizona besides the Grand Canyon.
Wow.
At one time. Yeah, not lately, but one time it was.
I can imagine.
Now people have discovered there's a lot of great to see in Arizona. But back then, not so much.
Yeah. That's
awesome.
Yeah. There's so much information now. Overload.
Yeah.
My brain's just
my wife always tells me that there's 3 histories of Tombstone. There is the archive history, which is newspapers and business records and things like that. Then there's the oral history of Tombstone, which is kind of like playing the telephone game. Probably started out one way and then completely ended up different later. And then there's the Hollywood history of Tombstone. And the weird thing is you could be on the street in Tombstone and have someone put all three of those things together in one discussion with you. And, I love it when I hear people talk and they're clearly talking about stuff from the movie Tombstone. And I'm like, that didn't happen exactly like that. And they're like, oh, but I saw it in the movie. I'm like, yeah, like Doc Holliday for sure didn't kill Johnny Ringo. But they 1,000% no, but he was in Colorado, so it probably wasn't him.
Oh.
Yeah.
Johnny Ringo is buried like maybe an hour and 15 minutes from here, right where he fell.
Mm.
Wow. That was a cool scene in the movie, though.
Kel is listening to this going, who the hell is Johnny Ringo? Do you even know who Doc Holliday is?
Who? Sorry.
Doc Holliday.
Oh yeah. I've heard.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, you never know.
I've heard of Laura the White Earp and all them. I've heard of all them. Yeah.
So
I just haven't seen the movie. That's all.
Jolene West is asking, if someone wants to investigate out there, do we contact Bruce? And if so, how do we contact him?
What I would do is, if you want, if you're on Facebook, I would follow Discover Tombstone because I run Discover Tombstone. Or if you look me up on Facebook, it says Bruce Burnett. And it's kind of like the way I put out. I mean, I'm wearing this hat, but I'm going to run another jacket looking to the side because when you go to look up him on Facebook, it's like ridiculous not being able to find someone. But if you follow Discover Tombstone, that's easy to find. I do that page. I also do Discover Boo Hill. So you can get in touch through there. And if it's something I don't have direct access to or something, I can definitely put you in touch with the people that do.
That's brilliant. Yeah, well, like I say, everybody now knows where to find you. And I definitely think we'll have to be up there at one point, so we'll come and harass you.
Oh yeah, you have to.
Well,
you can copy my deck and look at the entire town of Tombstone from here.
Wow, that would be cool. Definitely.
Yeah, this house was ridiculous. It didn't even cost me 3 times the price of my truck.
Wow.
It was way better than the house I was from in California. All I have to tell you, the internet was way better in California.
Hmm.
But the funny thing was...
Oh, look, Enoch found me. I just got a friend request from
Found
him.
you quick. Yeah.
Yeah. We were walking around at night in Tombstone, and we actually had a deer walk into town. And over by the bird cage, and we all were like, is that really a deer? It's kind of dark looking, darker than you would expect. And we were like, is that the ghost of a deer, or is that really a deer?
We have tons of deer around here. Tons of deer by my house all the time. And like, there's Arizona is the Australia of the United States. What I mean by that is there's a lot of stuff in Arizona that could kill you if it got to chance. Most things don't try. It's like you got to be a little careful for rattlesnakes. Javelin are these things that kind of look sort of like wild boars. Sort of, you want to be careful with those because they grow big tusks and they are gnarly. They have a tendency to try and knock over trash cans and see if there's anything good in them, but you don't want to deal with them if you can avoid. The deer are normally totally cool. I'm not saying you should go around and pet them because honestly, it's not a Disney movie. They're not maybe they're wild animals. They might not take to wanting to get petted, but it's very cool. We see whale all the time around the street. Certain times of year, we are inundated with bunny rabbits. I mean, bunny rabbits like cottontail, like bunnies, not just like jackrabbits, but like bunnies, like all over the place. It's crazy. That's normally in the spring, but it's kind of interesting, kind of cool.
Wow.
I had 2 mountain lions walk right down the street, and where I live on a hill, so the street that I actually live on, which is not even how you come to my street, but I have to look down the street, and I have a husky, and my husky looked over the rail, and the husky suddenly takes something like the house, and I'm like, told my wife, what scared X-Wonder Husky, and she goes, oh God, she goes, there's 2 mountain lions down there, and I'm like, let's go inside. Because I don't think it'd take a mountain lion more than about 5 seconds to get up this hill. It would take me a few minutes, but
wow.
I wasn't interested in meeting. I don't want to be one of the ghosts of Tombstone, you know?
There you go.
There you go. Not yet, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, don't want that to happen.
Yeah, not until at least we come over.
Right? Well, you know, look, if I'm ever a ghost of Tombstone and you come over, I'm going to scare the shit out of you.
That's a deal. I'm not easily scared, you know.
Just do it on recording.
Walking around, it'll be like my wife. It'll be like someone put their hands on my back. I'm like, yeah, that was me.
Oh my
It'll
God.
be like somebody put their hands on my backside.
That was the cat.
Yeah,
Right.
not unusual.
That's
Anyway,
awesome.
as fun as this conversation is, we've now passed with time, so we're gonna have to wrap it up there. If that's okay with everybody else.
No problem.
I wish this was a longer episode for sure.
And if anyone ever comes to town, I'll meet you in town and go down there and have coffee with you from Undertaker Espressos, and I'll shoot the shit with you all the time. I do that almost every day with people, so.
Yeah.
Nice.
I can
That would be
vouch.
brilliant.
He does do that.
I do.
Yeah, well, we'll definitely have to head down there.
And it was great to be on. I appreciate it, guys.
It was a pleasure meeting you.
Yeah.
Thank you for
You bet.
coming on.
Yeah, well,
Sorry for my internet.
It's okay about the internet, but we'll have to get you on another time as well, later on, maybe in the year, and see if there's been any progress or anything like that up there. 'Cause, I mean, it's really interesting. I'll have to do it, especially after I watch the movie.
100%. You'll like the movie. I guarantee you will.
Yeah, I already know I will. But anyway, so I just want to thank you again, Bruce, for coming on. It's been amazing. And I really do appreciate this, and so do the other guys. And I'm wrapping up the night, so I've just got to thank everybody who's been in the chat tonight, everybody who's watched the show tonight, and thank you for your continuous support. And we love you loads. And we should be back again, I think, in about 2 weeks. I'm not quite sure. I've just got to clear it up with the boss, Michael. But he likes to think he's the boss, don't you, Michael?
Nope, I totally own you as the boss.
He was the boss of Tombstone when he was here. Nah, nice guy. Really nice.
Yeah, he is. We all love our Michael. So anyway, I just want to thank you again, and Bruce, and me 2 wonderful co-hosts for tonight, and we'll see everybody on the next show. So stay safe and stay happy.
Have fun, everyone.
See you soon.
Bye.